Hey guys, welcome back to our chapter book reading of Wonder. As you probably remember from yesterday's reading, they're at the play and Via just went on stage when it was supposed to be Miranda. So let's see what's going on. Next chapter is called The Ending. The play was so amazing. I don't want to give away the ending, but it's kind of the ending that makes people in the audience teary. Mom totally lost it when Via as Emily said, "Goodbye, goodbye, world. Goodbye, Grover's Corners, Mama and Papa. Goodbye to clocks ticking and Mama sunflowers and food and coffee and new iron dresses and hot baths and sleeping and waking up. Oh, Earth, you're too wonderful for anybody to realize you." Via was actually crying while she's saying this, like real tears. I could see them rolling down her cheeks. It was totally awesome. After the curtain closed, everyone in the audience started clapping. Then the actors came out one by one. Via and Justin were the last ones out, and when they appeared, the whole audience rose to their feet. "Bravo!" I heard Dad yelling through his hands. "Why is everyone getting up?" I said. "It's a standing ovation," said Mom, getting up. So I got up and clapped and clapped. I clapped until my hands hurt. For a second, I imagined how cool it would be to be Via and Justin just then. Having all these people standing up cheering for them. I think there should be a rule that everyone in the world should get a standing ovation at least once in their lives. Finally, after I don't know how many minutes, the line of actors on stage stepped back and closed the curtain in front of them. The clapping stopped and the lights went up and the audience started getting up to leave. Me and Mom and Dad made our way to the backstage. Crowds of people were congratulating the performers, surrounding them, patting them on the back. We saw Via and Justin at the center of the crowd, smiling at everyone, laughing and talking. "Via!" shouted Dad, waving as he made his way through the crowd. When he got a little closer, he hugged her and lifted her off the floor. "You were amazing, sweetheart." "Oh my gosh, Via!" Mom was screaming with excitement. "Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!" She was hugging Via so hard, I thought Via would suffocate. But Via was laughing. "You were brilliant," said Dad. "Brilliant," Mom said, kind of nodding and shaking her head at the same time. "And you, Justin," said Dad, shaking Justin's hand and giving him a hug at the same time. "You were fantastic." "Fantastic," Mom repeated. She was, honestly. So emotional she could barely talk. "What a shock to see you up there, Via," said Dad. "Mom didn't even recognize you at first," I said. "I didn't recognize you," said Mom, her hand over her mouth. "Miranda got sick right before the show started," said Via, all out of breath. "There wasn't even time to make an announcement. I have to say she looked kind of strange because she was wearing all this makeup and I'd never seen her like this before." "And you just stepped in there right at the last minute?" said Dad. "Wow. She was amazing, wasn't she?" said Justin, his arm around Via. "There wasn't a dry eye in the house," said Dad. "Is Miranda okay?" I said, but no one heard me. At that moment, a man who I think was their teacher came over to Justin and Via, clapping his hands. "Bravo, bravo, Olivia and Justin." He kissed Via on the cheek. "I flubbed a couple of lines," said Via, shaking her head. "But you got through it," said the man, smiling ear to ear. "Mr. Davenport, these are my parents," said Via. "You must be so proud of your girl," he said, shaking their hands with both of his hands. "We are." "And this is my little brother, August," said Via. He looked like he was about to say something, but suddenly froze when he looked at me. "Mr. D," said Justin, pulling him by the arm, "come meet my mom." Via was about to say something to me, but then someone else came over and started to talk to her, and before I knew it, I was kind of alone in the crowd. I mean, I knew where Mom and Dad were, but there were so many people all around us, and people kept bumping into me, spinning me around a bit, giving me that 1-2 look, which made me feel kind of bad. I don't know if it was because I was feeling hot or something, but I kind of started to get dizzy. People's faces were blurring in my head, and their voices were so loud it was almost hurting my ears. I tried to turn the volume down on my Lobot ears, but I got confused and turned them up louder, which kind of shocked me. And then I looked up and I didn't see Mom or Dad or Via anywhere. "Via?" I yelled out. I started pushing through the crowd to find Mom. Mom! I really couldn't see anything but people's stomachs and ties all around me. Mom! Suddenly, someone picked me up from behind. Look who's here, said a familiar voice, hugging me tight. I thought it was Via at first, but when I turned around, I was completely surprised. Hey, Major Tom, she said. Miranda, I answered, and I gave her the tightest hug I ever could. We're almost there. We're now moving on to part 7. It is Miranda's point of view now. So this book is all about the points of view of the same story, but it's pretty cool. So we're going to go ahead and get into Miranda. Here we go. Next chapter is called Camp Lies. My parents got divorced the summer before 9th grade. My father was with someone else right away. In fact, though my mother never said it, I think this is the reason why they got divorced. After the divorce, I hardly ever saw my father, and my mother acted stranger than ever. It's not that she was unstable or anything, just distant, remote. My mother is the kind of person who has a happy face for the rest of the world, but not a lot left over for me. She never talked to me much, not about her feelings, her life. I don't know much about what she was like when she was my age. Don't know much about things she liked or didn't like. The few times she mentioned her own parents, who I've never met, it was mostly about how she wanted to get far away from them as she could when she'd grown up. She never told me why. I asked a few times, but she would pretend she didn't hear me. I didn't want to go to camp that summer. I wanted to stay with her to help her through the divorce, but she insisted that I go anyway. I figured she wanted alone time, so I gave it to her. Camp was awful. I hated it. I thought it would be better being a junior counselor, but it wasn't. No one I knew from the previous year had come back, so I didn't know anyone. Not a single person. I'm not even sure why, but I started playing this little make-believe game with the girls in camp. They'd ask me about myself, and I'd make things up. My parents are in Europe, I told them. I live in a huge townhouse on the nicest street in North River Heights, and I have a dog named Daisy. Then one day, I blurted out that I had a little brother who was deformed. I had absolutely no idea why I said this. It just seemed like a really interesting thing to say. And of course, the reaction I got from the little girls in the bungalow was dramatic. Really? So sorry. That must be tough. Etc., etc. I regretted saying this the moment it escaped from my lips, of course. I felt like such a fake. I'm Miranda. I'm not Via. If Via ever found out, I thought, she'd think I was such a weirdo. And I felt like a weirdo. But I have to admit, there was a part of me that felt a little entitled to this lie. I've known Augie since he was 6 years old. I've watched him grow up, I've played with him, I've watched all 6 episodes of Star Wars for his sake, so I could talk to him about the aliens and bounty hunters and all that. I'm the one that gave him the astronaut helmet he wouldn't take off for 2 years. I mean, I've kind of earned the right to think of him as my brother. And the strangest thing is that these lies I told, these fictions, did wonders for my popularity. The other junior counselors heard it from the campers, and they were all over it. Never in my life have I ever been considered one of the popular girls in anything. But that summer camp, for whatever reason, I was the girl everyone wanted to hang out with. Even the girls in Bungalow 32 were totally into me. These were the girls at the top of the food chain. They said they liked my hair, though they changed it. They said they liked the way I did my makeup, though they changed that too. They showed me how to turn my t-shirt into halter tops. We snuck out late at night and took a pathway to the boys' camp. We hung out with the boys. When I got home from camp, I called Ella right away to make plans with her. I don't know why I didn't call Via. I guess I just didn't feel like talking about stuff with her. She would have asked me about my parents, about camp. Ella never really asked me about things. She was an easier friend to have in that way. She wasn't serious like Via. She was fun. She thought it was cool when I dyed my hair pink. She wanted to hear all about those trips through the woods late at night. Next chapter, school. I hardly saw Via at school this year, and when I did, it was awkward. It felt like she was judging me. I knew she didn't like my new look, my pink hair. I knew she didn't like my group of friends. I didn't much like hers. We never actually argued. We just drifted away. Ella and I badmouthed her to each other. She's such a prude, she would say. She's so that. We knew we were being mean, but it was easier to ice her out if we pretended she had done something to us. The truth is, she hadn't changed at all. We had. We'd become those people, and she was still the person she'd always been. That annoyed me so much, and I didn't know why. Once in a while, I looked to see where she was sitting in the lunchroom, or checked the elective list to see what she'd signed up for. But except for a few nods in the hallway and an occasional hello, we never really spoke to each other. I noticed Justin about halfway through the school year. I hadn't noticed him at all before then, other than he was a skinny, cutish guy with the thick glasses and longish hair and carried a violin everywhere. Then one day I saw him in front of school with his arm around Via. So Via has a boyfriend? I said to Ella, kind of mocking. I don't know why it surprised me that she'd have a boyfriend. Out of the three of us, she was totally the prettiest. Blue eyes, long wavy dark hair. But she just never acted like she was at all interested in boys. She acted like she was too smart for that kind of stuff. I had a boyfriend too, a guy named Zach. When I told him I was choosing the theater elective, he shook his head and said, "Careful, you don't want to turn into a drama geek." Not the most sympathetic dude in the world, but really cute. Very high up on the totem pole, a varsity jock. I wasn't planning on taking theater at first. Then I saw Via's name on the sign-up sheet and just wrote my name down on the list. I don't even know why. We managed to avoid one another throughout most of the semester, like we didn't even know each other. Then one day, I got to theater class a little early, and Davenport asked me to run off additional copies of the play he was planning on us having to do for the spring production, The Elephant Man. I'd heard about it, but I didn't really know what it was about. So I started skimming through the pages while I was waiting for the Xerox machine. It was about a man who lived more than 100 years ago, named John Merrick, who was terribly deformed. "We can't do this play, Mr. D," I told him when I got back to class, and I told him why. "My little brother has a birth defect and he has a deformed face. This play would hit too close to home." He seemed annoyed and a little unsympathetic, but I kind of said that my parents would have a real issue with our school doing this play. So anyway, he ended up switching to Our Town. I think I went for the role of Emily Gibbs because I knew Via was going for it too. It never occurred to me that I'd beat her for the role. And that's where we're going to stop our chapter book today. Go on and do the question, and we'll do two more tomorrow. Bye, guys.